Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? What you are about to witness is real.
This is not a dream, but a new beginning.
Stand by for uplink.
The Don Hanston Show, straight up.
Thank you.
GPS uplink now completed with Google Earth. Commencing the official countdown in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to Straight Up, the Don Hanston Show. Today we got a great topic we're going to be talking about. Don, good morning. How are you doing this week?
Good morning, Sal. Everything's
Good.
great.
What I wanted to talk about today, Don, is particular types of people that maybe you shouldn't be friends with. Because I heard someone talking the other day about this stuff, and I thought it would be an interesting topic, and I wanted to get your opinion about that. Just to list off some traits of people that you should probably not have in your life, people you should not be friends with. And I'm going to start this off, and I'm going to give you one of the things that we came up with, being the energy vampire. And I know you referenced this in the last show. You made a comment about that. How do you feel about that, the energy vampire, somebody who just sucks all the energy out of you?
Well, absolutely. I mean, when you're around people, right, and you have an encounter with that person, a cup of coffee, motorcycle ride, it doesn't matter what you do something with them. Do you feel better after that encounter with that person, or do you feel worse? You know, did you go into it feeling excited and happy, and you come out and you're like bummed out or pissed off or something? And so a lot of people do, like, misery loves company type of thing, right? So a lot of people, they're miserable. They're going to be happy seeing you miserable and anybody else around them. So, like, I think people either enhance or they deteriorate you, okay? And so when you're around the right people, like if you think about like what your parents may have said, you are who your friends are, you're a reflection of who your friend, whatever they said, you know, who your friends are. There's actually a lot of truth to that, because what happens is their behavioral patterns, their habits, the things that they do on a regular basis become what you do on a regular basis, become what you think on a regular basis. People are happy, you're going to be happy. People want to bring goodness to you, you're going to bring goodness to others. If people bring misery to you, unfortunately, without realization on the subconscious level, you're going to be bringing misery to others, okay? People that want to bring good news, right? Good news to you, okay? You're going to want to share good news with other people, which makes people feel better, which lifts them up. But if you're around somebody, oh yeah, you know, and all they do is, and a lot of people that watch the TV, because the TV only talks about, like the news, they only talk about negative things. People, all the people that are killed and all the bad things that are happening, their perspective on what's bad. But everything's bad. Nothing's good that they report on, because I guess surveys show that, you know, the negative news is what sells, not positive news. So a lot of people that watch a lot of news and a lot of TV are going to be negative, even if they don't think so. And then what do? They go and share the information that they think that they know or that they learned from, you know, network, you know, news. And so a lot of that stuff, a lot of their habits outside of your relationship, really, what happens is that affects your relationship with them. So, you know, if you go and you watch, you know, let's say, and I'm not trying to throw right and left stuff here, but I'm just going to say, let's just say you go and you watch The View or CNN, and you're going to come to me and you're gonna say all this negative shit, because it's all negative shit. And whether I agree with it or I don't, it's all negative. So it's going to make me negative, right? And if I agree with it, I'm going to share it with other people. And if I don't disagree with it, it's just going to put me in a bad mood. So the moral to the story is you need to be around people that bring like positive message, positive vibration. You want to be around people that are constantly making their lives better and their environment better. The only way that you make yourself better is by bettering yourself in all ways, right? Your habits, right? Your relationships, your environment, everything needs to get better in order for you to get better. So you got to think about it like this. Use these two words: enhance or deteriorate. Does your current habits or relationships or people that you're around enhance you, or do they deteriorate you? I think it's
Well, I
pretty
think,
simple.
at some point you sit there and you're starting to hang with some of your friends and you're like, hold on a second, why do I feel more drained than anything from hanging with someone? And I think you bring up a good point. Sometimes when I watch the news and I see clips, it actually it will affect my mood. It will make me angry. I'll be mad, ticked off, maybe put me in a bad mood. And I think people absolutely have the same effect on you, because there's people that you like to hang around with, but then all of a sudden you start thinking, wait a minute, I'm walking away from this night or these couple hours sitting down, hanging with some friends, and I feel physically and mentally drained from being around them. Like you said, just sucking the energy completely out of you. I've ended some friendships because people were like that. I didn't like the way I felt. I didn't like the mood, the atmosphere, the way it was. You want to make plans with somebody and go out, and then when you're sitting there with them, you're like, all right, this sucks, because this person's down in the dumps. And, let's be honest, everyone is not going to be, pro friendship and energy and everything. And you have those energy vampires that just take all your energy away. Gone.
And I want to mention something, because I don't want to make this anything about politics or whatever, but I want to mention, like, even if this was the opposite, right? You watch news, and I used very liberal stations, right? The View and CNN. Let's go on the other side of the coin, and you go and you watch Newsmax or Fox News, okay? Whether or not you're in line with that, okay? It's going to make you negative, because it highlights all these things that people are doing, all this corrupt things. But it's also besides news, it's perspective, and so it's a lot of negative outcome of what they're saying, and a lot of that stuff really makes people mad. When you find out that your governor and your mayor are destroying the states and the cities, and they're stealing money and this and that. The bottom line is it's negative, right? You just being aware of that's fine. But I think there's so many other things that we should be focused on, and I think big part of it is ourselves, right? If we focus on making ourselves better, we're going to be better company for people that want better company. Now, on the other hand, there's people that utilize your friendship for their own reasons. And so, for instance, let's say you're a wild man, and you're making everybody laugh, and you're doing stupid shit, and you're getting drunk, and you're doing all kinds of shit that nobody's saying things and doing things that nobody else will do, and so people want to be around you for the yuck, right? Well, what happens is people, they expect that, and so in a way they kind of use you, because you're there for their entertainment. You're there to brighten up the party. You don't miss an invitation. Everybody wants you to come to their parties. Everyone wants you to come out and do things with them, right? Go on trips with them. And the reason why is for their own entertainment, right? And sometimes that's deteriorative too, because it makes you feel good, like you're making everybody else laugh. But sometimes you're doing deteriorative behaviors in order to make everybody laugh. So, I mean, there's a lot of ways that people use you to fill the voids in their lives, and I think, and is it really making you better, or is it making you worse? Because let's say you go out and you're drinking, or you're abusing your body, or you're doing stuff that maybe doesn't work with the legal system, whatever may happen, Next thing you know, you're in bracelets, and you're going downtown, or you're hungover, and you're in a fight with your wife when you get home, or you wrecked your motorcycle, or some shit happened, all for somebody else's enjoyment.
So what you're saying is they drain your peace, right? They just drain your peace. You know what? I have to say that sounds so specific. Your examples there. Sounds a little specific, but I'm not going to ask you to elaborate.
I can't say.
I get it.
No. We don't need to know too much. Honestly, you don't want to know too much. But anyways, so you have to kind of you have to always be. I think that we have to have a barometer, and we have to constantly fair the fact is what we're doing making us better or worse, okay? And sometimes through a different perspective, things that are deteriorative, you think is making you better. But then when you kind of look through it through a magnifying glass that is better or worse, a lot of times you're like, yeah, it's making me worse.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? All that booze is making my head very hazy and ready to make some more bad decisions. You know what I mean?
It's definitely a trait. I'm still thinking about the motorcycle getting right. Another one that we had come up with was the consistent victim, the perpetual victim. We've all had that friend that, just life is cheating them and they're miserable and they want to bring you into that circle. They want you to be miserable with them. And I had friends like that too. Like every time you're with them, they're just a downer. And, that could relate to, the energy vampire, but to have a perpetual victim, and these people tend to never blame themselves. It's always somebody else's fault, not their own. And I could, right away, and I think people that are listening to this are popping up people in their head like, oh yeah, this person or that person, because I've already thought about someone that's in my life, someone I don't really see that often. Every once in a while when I go to the bar, and I just think every time I'm around them, it's like, oh, life sucks. Life's so bad for me. This happened to me, and I lost my job, and they just constantly blame everybody but themselves. They don't take a step back and look at what decisions they made in their life. And that is something that I think is another trait of people that you don't want to have around you. What do you think?
Well, yeah, I mean, all these examples that you're giving are like, when you really look at it, it's even more of a simplistic look, right? That's the difference between being the cause and being the effect, right? When you're the cause, you're creating every problem that you have, everything that's good that you have. When you're the effect, these are just what happens to me. I'm part of society. I'm part of civilization. I'm an American citizen. I'm married, and this is how it goes in marriages. And they're the effect. So they're saying that they're not in control, right? And when you're not in control, anything can happen, right? You can go blind, you can get sick and die, you can be happy, you can be sad, you could go in any direction you want to go. But not what you want to do. You're being the effect, the complete effect.
Yeah.
Okay? If you're being the cause, and you say, hey, you know what? I put on 20 pounds. You know what? Instead of these people that come up with these different, excuses, say, you know what? I got to curb my diet. You know what I mean? I got to lessen the sugar. Okay? Or, my marriage isn't going so good. Okay? Okay. Then focus on your marriage, right? Okay. Well, maybe I'm not, talking to my wife like what's important to her is important to me, or maybe I'm not spending enough time with her, or we're not having sex in the house. Well, why aren't you having sex? Well, because she doesn't want to have sex. Well, maybe you're not, maybe it's you, right? It's probably you. So if people take accountability for being the cause of their problems, they could actually fix them. But when they don't want to and they can't fix them, they don't have the wherewithal to fix them, what they're going to do is they're going to come and complain to you, right? Oh,
right.
My wife doesn't, I got married 2 years ago.
They thrive on chaos. If things are quiet and silent, it makes them crazy because they just want chaos. They want the consistent chaos. And that, I think, is key to somebody that you wouldn't want to be around.
But it goes... Exactly. And it goes back to misery loves company. My life sucks. I want your life to suck. Your life should... how could you have a good life if my life's bad? Right? So they want you to be miserable. They want to share
it, right?
misery with you.
And for some reason, it makes them feel better.
Pull you in. Yeah.
So I guess what we're saying is if you have someone like that in your life, what they're saying is real simple. Walk away. Walk away. Because I don't think if you call them out on it, they're going to just take offense to it, The other thing that we had written down was like the secret hater. Someone who is your friend, your closest friend, and they act like they're in your corner. They act like they're a big cheerleader for you, but secretly they hate you and they want you to fail. And that could go back on what? On jealousy, stuff like that, you think?
Yeah. A lot of it's envy. A lot of it's jealousy. The thing is you call it secret hater. It's got to do with people that want to make you better, people that want to make you worse, and there's people out there that will come to you, and maybe they're friends with, let's say, you and your wife, or you and another friend, right? And they come to you and they say, you know what, Sal, your wife's been, talking to one of the other guys on the hockey team, and I don't know, they went out in the car, and who knows what they did. And then they come to you, and then they say, or they go to her, and then they say, you know what, Sal, did this or did that and did this and did that. And what they do is they stir up shit in your own fucking life, where a lot of it's embellished anyways, but they're going back and forth. And what they're doing is they're suppressive people, and they're there for your destruction. But really what they're there to pretend like they're there for you, right? It's covert hostility, right? Like they're being all sneaky, like they're your friend.
They bring you
I'm
in,
your
they
friend.
trap you into
When people are like, I'm your friend, I'm here for you, for everything that
Right.
you need. You got to be a little suspicious, because you're like, all right, why are you so there for me? Well, no, really, you're there for you, and you're there to destroy me. Maybe you want to get my wife from me because you want to either destroy me, or you want to go run off into the sunset with her. Who knows what your agenda is? But there's always an agenda behind their behavior. And so when you start understanding this, and I don't know if you know this, but there's this thing called a third party law. And when you and somebody else has a problem and you cannot resolve that problem, the reason you can't resolve that problem is because the problem's not between you and that person. It's a hidden person in the background. So it could be, let's say you and your wife have a problem and you can't resolve it, right? Very possibly it could be like mother-in-law, right? In the background, telling her this, telling you that, and stirring up the fucking pot. Well, people don't understand this because they're just like, this is my enemy. Well, no, that's not really the case, because if you want to solve your problem, you can. And if you can't solve your problem, you have to look outside. So sometimes you got to be careful with being friends with people that are connected to other people that are ultimately there to destroy you. So you have to kind of look at the people that they're around, right? Because everyone's behavior, right, is affected by their environment. And so if your environment's bad, let's just say me and you are hanging out, Sal, and you hang around and you play in a hockey team, and they're all heroin addicts, okay? And I say, Sal, you know what, I don't want nothing to do with you. And you say, well, I don't do heroin. I'm like, you don't do heroin, I understand it, but you're around these people, and I guarantee they affect your environment. Yeah. So, yes, the toxicity, it's kind of like cancer in your body. You could have one cell, and it affects the cells specifically right around that, right? At, let's say, 75%. And then the cells surrounding that one, it may be at a 50%. And the cells surrounding that one, maybe at a 25%. It slowly gets watered out, right? But if you could get rid of the cancer, right, then you get rid of all that toxicity, and it's the same thing in relationships and
they don't want healing. They just want to stay in the chaos, and they don't want solutions. They don't want you to have solutions or heal. They want you to stay in the chaos with them, because they secretly hate if somebody else succeeds and they're not succeeding, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to add one more thing to this too, Sal. And I know we've talked about this in the other podcasts, is a lot of people keep relationships alive because of the longevity of that relationship, right? I've been friends with this person for 40 years, and I know I went to school at this, all this stuff. That's no reason to keep a toxic person in your life. Yeah. Just because you've spent a lot of time with them. I mean, if that's what's important to you and you want to do it, then just do it. I'm not trying to tell anybody what to do, but I don't care. If I spend 40 years knowing somebody that's been trying to destroy me, just think how good the next 40 years could be without this person. You know what I mean?
Okay, that's another one. And I think we have one more here, one or two more. But the other one is the friend of yours that likes to share negativity with you, constantly talking bad about other people in your group of friends, your circle of friends. And if they're not talking bad about somebody, then you're possibly the one they're talking bad about to all the other friends in there. And we like to refer to this person as someone in your life who's like the gossiper. Somebody who likes to start all the trouble between everybody. And I think you just mentioned that with like, I wanted to say like the third man in, the third person. They thrive on the chaos in your life, and they just want to keep gossiping and creating problems between certain groups of friends. I think we've all had people.
Right. That would be the antagonist, right? So it's kind of like you go to a party, right? Let's say you're at a party and somebody leaves, right? Just look at the person that can't wait for that person to leave so they can start talking about them, okay? And then the next person leaves, and then it's either the same person or a different person can't wait until they leave so they can start talking about them. And so it's kind of interesting. You're like, okay, I wonder what happens when I leave. Who's going to be talking about me?
Mocking you
Not that I
behind
give a
your
shit,
back,
but
right.
exactly. So they're not going to say it to your face, but they can't wait for you to leave so they can, criticize. Did you see her? A lot of women with gossip about like looks, right? Did you see her hair? She thinks she's so beautiful, and or you see that piece of jewelry, or did you see how she talked to him, or whatever it is? It's a lot of girl stuff is petty stuff, and a lot of the guy stuff is. Like tough guy. That guy thinks he's tough. You can't just say that in my house or whatever they come up with. Say it to the
they
guy's
act
face.
different around certain friends with you too, right?
Exactly, and they want to antagonize. So they want to get other people up in arms about that person. Or did you know what that person told me about that they said about you?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like Sal, that guy was just in here and he told me that you sucked at hockey. And that you blew the game and it did all this bullshit. And it's just antagonizing behavior is what it is. And you're right. You don't need those types of people in
And another thing is
your
their
life,
loyalty is based on like the friends' approval in the circle, like the audience approval. And that's the bad part because they're great actors, the people that are gossiping amongst your friends. So, and as
Well, approval is so important for people because approval, unfortunately, when other people like people that approve of what they say or what they do, right? They like other people, and they don't like people that don't, right? If you disapprove, they
right.
don't like you. They want to get you out of their lives, and so like if you're a right or wrong person, right? And you approve of stuff that's right and you disapprove of things that are wrong, you're going to find out real quick what types of friends you have around.
Well, yeah, and it also depends how long you tolerated those friends. I always like to joke with my friends and say, you know what, I think, we'll meet up in a couple of weeks because you have a shelf life. Your shelf life is expired, So and I agree with that because not, and I think at one point you have to look at some of these people that are negatives in your life, and you have to say, you don't deserve access to my peace. You don't deserve access to my life because all you're bringing in is the negativity, the bad energy. You could tell the jealousy is there. You could tell that jealousy with the secret hater is like say somebody gets like a new car or a new phone, and that one friend's always like, oh, it must be nice. Oh, it must be nice to have this. Well, you know what? Bottom line is you could have this too. Nobody told you to go out and get a job. Maybe go out and look for a career. You could have, people always tell me, oh, it must be nice to retire early and be so young. Well, yeah, unfortunately, I picked a crap job at the time, but it had the benefits in the long run. I mean, anybody could have went and got the job that you have if they're jealous of an early retirement and stuff like that. We all have the same opportunities, Don, correct?
Well, they hate their lives, right?
They
If you
do,
don't like your
right.
life, quit comparing yourselves to people who you think's life's better. Why don't you make your life a little bit better, right? And I'll be honest with you, and this is going to sound very arrogant, and I don't give a shit. I wouldn't trade my life for anyone in this entire universe for all the tea in China, right? And if I would, then I need to look at my life and say, what do I need to improve? And so improve your life. Quit worrying about everybody else and quit criticizing everybody else and quit, trying to envy everyone else. If there's something that you got going on that I would like in my life, okay, I might ask you, hey, you know what? How did you attain this, or how did you, get this type of skill, or blah 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 blah, or try and figure it out so I could have that in my life. But instead of doing that, just think about things that you would like in your life instead of comparing yourself to these other people. And make it happen. And it's not, I don't think it's that difficult. I think just people put these roadblocks in their head to make everything seem difficult. And I have this conversation almost every single day with almost every single person. And they always tell me the same thing. They always say, you make it sound so simple. And I say, you know what? You make it sound so difficult.
Go on, right.
Okay? And so, honest to God, if there was a day in my life that I didn't hear that, I'd give you a nickel for every single day, and I don't think I'd have to owe you much money, because people say that all the time. They're like, "Yeah, it's easy for you to say. You make it sound so easy."
Well, you got to work at it,
and it is. It really
if
is
you
that
work
easy.
at it. It's like taking a test. Oh, that exam was difficult. Well, to me, it wasn't, because I studied. It's the same thing with life, like you're just saying. It's nice to have this, and I make it look easy because I worked hard for it. And it's difficult for you because you don't have the mindset to work hard for something. So, of course, it's going to be difficult. You don't want to put the time in the study.
Right.
You're going to have a real hard time on that exam. But someone who puts the time in is going to fly through it like it's nothing. And I think that's pretty much what you're saying, right? Put the work in.
Yeah. I mean, we're all going to have different capabilities. I was never much of a test taker.
Just giving an example. Me neither.
No, but I could study for 40 days and 40 nights, and I'd go in there and be like, I don't know my name. Like, I studied so much, I don't know what the fuck, which way is up. And so, but I don't care. I'm going to do what I got to do to pass it and move on. That's not important to me. If that was important to me, I'd figure out how to be good at it. You know what I mean?
Well, I think this was a great topic. I think we've only scratched the surface. And I find myself saying that every time we end the show, because I think these topics that we're talking about, you could definitely revisit them time and time again, because I think they're constantly evolving. There's always more to it. And with a lot of the real world problems that we're having, we could probably apply some of these topics that we've been discussing to what's going on in the world. But I think it's been a great discussion, and I know we got some really good, exciting shows coming up for you in the future. Do you have any final words, final thoughts before I wrap this up?
Well, yeah, I actually do. So I think all of these topics, any topic we come up with, hopefully we stop doing the political stuff. It's really about simplicity, right? Bring whatever thought it is that's bothering you, or that you'd like to change, or whatever, and reel it in a little bit. Make it as simple as you can. So what we're talking about is peace and betterment, right? Relationships that either create more or less peace and betterment for you, right? I mean, so you could really simplify it and say, is this relationship making my life more peaceful? Is it making my life better? Okay. And if you just simplify it like that, you don't need to know anything more than that. And you can just call it a day. And I think it's the same thing with anything, is you simplify it, because when you make it complicated, then that's when everybody can kind of screw with you and you don't know which way is up. And just keep it simple. What's important to you, make it important to you, and constantly make yourself
I think
better.
that's a good way to wrap it all up, Don. You put the little bow on there. You brought us all the way around back to the beginning when we started this, talking about the energy vampire. That was a great closing statement. Yeah. I love it. I want to remind everybody to visit our website, donhanstonshow.com. That's the website, donhanstonshow.com. You could also email us with some comments. We've got some positive emails coming in. We got some negative emails coming in. We enjoy them all. Let us know what we're doing right, but more importantly, let us know what we're doing wrong. And if you disagree with us, Give a comment below if you're watching us on YouTube. Also, hit that subscribe button. It helps us out. Hit the bell so you're notified when new episodes drop. And email us at straightupdonhanston@gmail.com, straightupdonhanston@gmail.com. You can also check out our podcast. We're on Apple, Overcast, Spotify, Rumble, Amazon Audio, and iHeartRadio. I was listening to iHeartRadio this weekend, some of our shows. Very good. Very good on there. So hit the subscribe button, let us know, and if there's a topic you want us to talk about or investigate, we'll do it for you and give you our opinion. And we thank you for joining us here on Straight Up, the Don Hanston Show, and we'll catch you next time.
Thank you.